Hello everybody, this is Gus from Askewed Reviews, and it's Saturday, so you know what that means. It's another episode of Cinema Society Saturday. Now, if you're not aware of what this is by now, I'm part of a group of people who love horror movies. So every week we're given a theme, and then we partner up, and then we have to give our partner a movie that fits within the theme, and then we have to do a review on Saturday about that film. So this week's theme was trapped/forced participation. So my partner for this week was Smash Trivia John, which if you're not already following him, please go and do so. He's got some great content and even a great podcast that I happen to appear on at least one episode of. So the movie that Smash Trivia John gave me for this week was Game of Death. So Game of Death is a, nope, not the Bruce Lee one. Here we go, this one. This is a 2017 film where a group of friends hang out at one of their houses as they're all drinking, smoking pot, having sex, and just having a great time. Now, one of the people at this party just so happens to find a board game called Game of Death, which is this thing up here, and it's actually kind of a cool looking little board game. I thought that was a nice touch to actually give something that looked different and not just like a cheesy board game style look to it. But anyway, back to the story. So the girl ends up introducing the game to her friends, and after a little bit of hesitation, everyone eventually agrees to play. So they place their thumbs on the skulls, and one by one, the skulls end up shooting a little hypodermic needle into them, drawing their blood out and pulling it into the board game. Now from here, a countdown clock starting at 24 begins to start going. Now, as they find out in the rules, each time that they manage to unalive someone, then the countdown will move further down until eventually it's at 0 and they're all fine. Now, if they decide not to unalive someone, one of them will have their heads explode. So for me, it took a little bit to get invested into the actual story, but it did become entertaining over time. For those of you that are into this, there is definitely a lot of gore and a lot of splatter. Now, there were a couple of things that I didn't like about the movie. For instance, I felt the entire time that none of the characters were actually likable, so it was very hard to get invested in them. And then there was a lot of sequences in this film that were very artsy, which sometimes that did work, other times it definitely did not. This movie also reminded me a lot of the film The Blackening, which is another great board game horror comedy that you should check out at some point if you haven't. So at least for me, on my scale, I'm going to give this movie a 3 out of 5. But you should definitely check it out for yourself as well. If you'd like to check out the movie Game of Death, it's currently streaming for free on Vudu, Fubo, and Crackle. Now, as I mentioned near the beginning of this episode, definitely go and check out my partner's stuff, Smash Trivia John, not only because of his great content, but because for this week, I gave him the film Buried. So I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of Cinema Society Saturday. If you'd like to see what all of the other people involved in this group have done, just take a look at the hashtag Cinema Society Saturday. And finally, I hope you become an Askewed viewer and follow me and check out all the rest of my content. You can find my stuff on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. I don't care if they call it X, I'm still calling it Twitter.